to commit to that healthy lifestyle as well. So some of you already are living that healthy lifestyle. It's just making sure that you are, what you'll hear me say this many times, the best version of yourself, right? So if you guys are okay, I'll share a little bit about my story. I will preface it with my apologies if I take long to say it. It's not that my story is very long. It's just I get very emotional about my story. So I will probably cry, FYI. And so for me, my story really began since I was an infant. I never had a father growing up, and so for me, not having a father was a huge issue growing up. Even though I had the most amazing mother that a guy could have, a kid could have, it was just for some reason not having that father figure was very important to me. I struggled a lot with my weight, childhood obesity, specifically more in my high school years, and a lot of it was because I had so much anger that I felt like I was nobody wanted me, right? Why would my father leave me if could I not be loved? Is that the reason? So I had a lot of daddy issues, right? Abandonment issues. And so I joined the military. I lost a lot of weight during when I went into basic training. I was actually on what they call the Fat Boy program in the military. So I was on restriction. I couldn't eat that much. So everybody else got to eat their regular food. I had to eat half of that. And so I lost 45 pounds in basic training in 7 weeks. Really quickly, but it was just, again, through that extreme exercise and all that. So I never really understood how to truly get a healthy lifestyle. 6 years in the military. When I was in the military, I struggled with weight loss. So it was never about weight loss. It was always about my maintenance. I could never maintain my weight. So got out of the military, and of course, I gained a lot of weight. At my heaviest, I was 240 pounds. And so it was a lot of obesity that my body was carrying, and specifically that visceral fat. So kind of fast forward into 6 years after I had gotten out of the military, my wife decided to do Isagenix. She didn't tell me about it, and so I was extremely pissed off, right, that she did Isagenix and she didn't tell me. She had signed up, and so I was very mean, I guess you could say, to her when she was doing the product. So I wasn't very supportive. She still had results though, and so I had gotten to a point where I was going into work. I was a massage therapist. I'd been a massage therapist for 10 years after I got out of the military. And so my knees were hurting, my back was starting to hurt, my fingers were starting to hurt. And I always preached like body mechanics during your work. And I was now like starting to get those symptoms of like, man, my body's achy all the time. I was overweight, my body was carrying all this excess weight. And so I've always been the stay-at-home dad, so to speak, carried more the mom role or the traditional mom role. And so I would always be the one that took the kids to school, brought the kids home from school, picked them up, took them to their practices, and which is what I've always loved to do. I knew in this life I was meant to be a dad. Like that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to be a dad, right? And I was being a father, but I wasn't being a dad. And I was sitting on the couch. Every day I would come home from work, and I would sit down, and I couldn't play with my kids. So again, I was a father, but I wasn't being a daddy. And my boys needed a daddy. So I had these two boys that at the time my little one was very, very young. But Cameron, which is my oldest, he's 10 now, he would always say to me, Dad, can we go play outside? And what does a kid like to play? Tag, right? What does a fat dad can't do? Run, right? You can't run after your kid. And so every day he would say, Dad, can we go play tag? And I said, no, son, I'm just too tired. And it was my excuse. I was just too tired, which I was. But it was an excuse just to not have to run because I couldn't. And so on the third day in a row, he said something that I'll never forget. He said, Daddy, can we go outside and play? And I said, no, son, I'm too tired. And so he looked at me dead in the eye and said, is it because you're too fat? And I looked at him and I said, yes, because I couldn't lie to him. I knew that I was not being who I was supposed to be, their superhero, their father figure, the person that they're supposed to look up to. And that's when I said, that's it, I will change from this day forward. I already knew my wife had been doing something that was very successful to her. And so I said, you know what, put your ego aside, because you don't have an ego. I didn't got out, right? That's what ego stands for, in my opinion. And so I said, you know what, it's time I take my life back and be the role model and the dad that I'm supposed to be. So I got on a 30-day system, on the Valley Pack, and I started doing everything.